My name is Debbie Chacona, and I'm with the Reports Analysis Division. And we're going to go through a scenario. Hopefully this scenario will make sense of everything that Liz covered, all this information, and put it all together on the reports. We're going to be dealing with a party committee, so that's important to know from the start, as well as the fact that it's a quarterly filer in our scenario. So, all right, so the first scenario reads like this, and the characters are very interesting in here as well. You'll catch on. Carmine Ragusa, a skilled fundraiser, is appointed chairman of the Freedom Party and is eager to begin fundraising for the 2010 election cycle, 2009-10. Carmine contacts his three top fundraisers from 2008, Lenny, Andrew, and Edna, who are all registered lobbyists. So that's a really important point to begin with, to help the party meet its fundraising goals. Lenny and Edna are members of the Freedom Party's Gold Star Club due to the size and number of contributions they bundled during the 2008 cycle. As a quality first-time bundler in 2008, Andrew was given an autographed copy of Congresswoman Shirley Feeney's new children's book, Boo Boo Kitty Goes to Washington. The party plans to track bundlers again this cycle and offer similar recognition to top fundraisers. Okay, so we need to make the determination here whether or not this activity is going to be disclosed, what we've learned so far about this scenario. Well, we haven't gotten the dollar amount yet. We're going to kind of go forward with that in a minute, but we can answer the first two questions here. Going back to what Liz told you about the criteria, we want to know first, are these individuals registered lobbyists? And yes, that's been identified in our scenario. So we have the first criteria. And then secondly, are they being credited with raising this money? And so the indication of them having Gold Star Club status tells us yes. So we have the first two criteria met. So now we're going to continue on with our facts here to see whether or not the third criteria, the disclosure threshold, has been met. Okay, so Lenny would like to remain a member of the Gold Star Club, so he urges two of his friends to make personal contributions to the Freedom Party. On May 8, 2009, Carmine receives a letter from Lenny along with two $10,000 contribution checks from Lenny's business associates. Carmine is pleased with Lenny's fundraising prowess, but has a nagging suspicion that the two contributions may trigger additional disclosure by the Freedom Party. Okay, so I'm going to throw it out there. Does the committee have to file a mid-year report, a disclosure? Remember, we're in 2009, so we're in a non-election year. It's a party committee filing quarterly. Okay, so that means that they are allowed to file a mid-year report, a semi-annual report, in lieu of the quarterly filing. So any takers on whether or not they're required to file a Form 3L? Yes, no? Okay, good. Yes, okay, they are required to file a Form 3L, and the reason is because we have the trigger has been met in terms of the monetary threshold, and that would be with Lenny, who bundled two $10,000 contributions, totaling $20,000, taking him over the $16,000 threshold amount. So the committee is going to be required to file this mid-year report. So this is what it's going to look like. The first page of the Form 3L looks like this. And Liz mentioned the adjusted covered period because the rules went into effect, the regulations went into effect for the party committees March 19th. That's when the covered period is going to begin, okay? Not on January 1st, since the rules weren't in effect then. So for this period, the covered period is going to be March 19th, 2009 through June 30th, 2009. Okay, so that satisfies the mid-year covered period. Then we have the semi-annual covered period, which there's a separate section you can see, which allows you to check the box for each semi-annual covered period. And in this case, it's going to cover January 1st, even though it's an adjusted covered period. The forms say January 1st through June 30th for this second covered period. So this report is going to cover, for lack of a better word, both covered periods. Okay. So that's what the first page of the Form 3L looks like. So how is it going to show up in terms of what information needs to be disclosed on the schedule? The Form 3L has a Schedule A and a Schedule B. We're going to look at both of them. This is what the Schedule A looks like. And in this case, we said Lenny is the one who triggered the disclosure requirements because he bundled two $10,000 contributions, bringing him to $20,000, requiring disclosure. So because we have two fields here. The first field here that you see where the $20,000, that's the quarterly covered period field, and that's where you would disclose the amount that was bundled by that lobbyist during the quarterly covered period. And in this case, we're talking about the same period, so the amounts are going to be the same. So it's $20,000. And then the second field below that covers the semi-annual period. And that's the amount that you would fill in that was bundled by that lobbyist during the semi-annual period. And this will make more sense when we get to situations where the covered periods are not exactly the same. It'll make more sense. So we're going to go through an event now, okay, and pull more information into our scenario so that we can see how it should be disclosed. Event number 1, due to the tough economic climate, the Freedom Party does not receive any fundraising assistance from the 3 lobbyists again until spring 2010. So now we're in an election year. On March 12, 2010, the party hosts a March Madness viewing party. Lenny, Andrew, and Edna recruit more than 100 donors for the event. Lucille Lockwash, the Freedom Party's treasurer, collects contribution checks as the attendees enter the event. Lucille touches base with the 3 lobbyist fundraisers before each of them leaves to get the names of the contributors they invited. In the end, the party credits Lenny with raising $20,000, Andrew with $5,000, and Edna with $10,000. Okay, in this scenario, let's go through our criteria again. We know, again, that these are registered lobbyists. Nothing's changed there. We know that they're being credited for their contributions, so now we have to turn to the disclosure threshold. And if we look, based on our facts, we see that Lenny, again, is credited with raising $20,000, so he's exceeded the $16,000 disclosure threshold. So must the committee file this April quarterly report? And the answer to that, obviously, is yes. We're talking about an election year, and our date is March 12th when this occurred. So the first quarter report covers, we're in 2010 now, so it covers January 1st through March 31st. So the committee would need to file the, the April quarterly Form 3L. Okay. What would that look like? Okay, let's see. Here's our first page of our report again. Okay, and because this is just the first quarter of the year, we're only going to disclose, check the box that says April quarterly, April 15th report. And we're going to indicate the coverage period in line 6, which is January 1st, 2010 through March 31st, 2010. So that's going to be it. We're not talking about a semi-annual period here because we're not covering 6 months. We're just talking about the first quarter of the calendar year. Okay? So that's the first page. So what does the Schedule A look like? Again, the period is January 1st through March 31st, and the event was held on March 12th, and Lenny bundled $20,000. So what's required to be disclosed? The name of the bundler, the lobbyist, his address, the full address, complete address, as well as the name of employer, and the amount that he bundled for the quarterly covered period. Okay, so that's what's required in this period. Now, what about the field below? The covered period for the semi-annual period? Not necessary, because this report does not cover the semi-annual period, so that can just be left blank, okay? So that field is not required to be disclosed, not even 0. So I get that question already. Just blank is fine. Okay, moving along with our facts. During the Freedom Party staff meeting a week after the March Madness event, it is decided that the contributors credited to Lenny must be refunded to the contributors. As a result, on March 29, Lucille refunds the $20,000 in contributions to Lenny. Okay? So, as I told you in the beginning, we have a Schedule A and a Schedule B. The Schedule B is specifically for disclosing the refunds, and that's the only thing it's for. Okay? Schedule B is for disclosing refunds, and we're going to see what that looks like. And the refund has to be disclosed during the coverage period where the refund occurs. Okay? So, in this scenario, the refund occurred in the same period when it was actually the money was bundled or received. So it's the same reporting period, so we're going to disclose it in this April quarterly period. Okay? And similar information just required the name of the bundler, the full address, and the amount that was refunded during the covered period. The covered period, again, January 1st through March 31st. The refund was made on March 29th, and that's the amount of the refund for the 3-month period, $20,000. And again, since this report is not covering the 6-month semi-annual period, nothing needs to be disclosed in the bottom field. Okay? Any questions on that? And probably important to mention as well, refunds, we're talking about money that was actually received and deposited is being disclosed as funded. But if the committee just receives it, never deposits it, and returns it, that's not required to be disclosed.